Hey guys. Tonight we're standing with you on a damp wooden pier. The kind that creaks softly under your weight. As if it's already tired of holding people and their secrets. It's Seattle, 1897. The air is cold but not sharp. Wrapped instead in a thick, patient fog that smells like salt water, wet rope, and ambition that's been left out in the rain too long. Gas lamps glow like tired fireflies along the waterfront. And somewhere behind you a steam whistle groans. Low and lonely. You pull your coat tighter. Even though the chill isn't really what's bothering you. It's that feeling, the sense that this city is watching you. Quietly betting on how long you'll last. Honestly, if this were a modern survival show, you'd already be the contestant everyone agrees probably won't make it to the final episode. You might not survive this one, and the city seems amused by that idea. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is right now. There's something oddly comforting about knowing exactly when and where people drift off to stories like this. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take a slow step forward, boots damp from earlier rain, and look out over Elliott Bay. Ships crowd the water like impatient animals, their masts poking holes in the fog. Seattle is swollen these days. The Klondike Gold Rush has turned it into a funnel city, sucking in miners, merchants, gamblers, and people like you. People who arrived chasing something vague, shiny, and just out of reach. During the day, the streets roar with wagons and shouting men. At night, though, the city exhales, and in that exhale, you feel it. The pull toward warmth, toward forgetting. Your hands ache, not badly yet, just enough to notice. You tell yourself it's from work, from hauling crates down by the docks, from pretending you're still strong enough to keep up. That explanation feels reasonable. Seattle runs on reasonable lies. You pass a saloon, laughter spilling out in a sudden burst. Then muffled again as the door swings shut. Whiskey is loud here. Opium is quieter. It waits. You follow a side street that narrows and darkens. The boards beneath your feet uneven, patched together like the city itself. This part of town doesn't advertise. It doesn't need to. Everyone knows. Chinatown sits just beyond the brighter lamps. A cluster of low buildings where the smells change: incense, cooking oil, something sweet and bitter at the same time. That smell settles into your lungs before you consciously decide to go closer. Your body recognizes it faster than your mind does, which is usually a bad sign in any century. Back then, opium isn't the forbidden thing it will become later. You can buy it in pharmacies. Doctors prescribe it casually, the way someone today might suggest herbal tea or, if they're feeling dramatic, meditation. Laudanum, opium dissolved in alcohol, is sold as a cure-all. Cough? Laudanum. Sad? Laudanum. Child won't stop crying? Disturbingly. Also laudanum. It's one of those historical facts that feels like a prank until you realize it's very real. Some historians still argue whether people truly understood the risks or simply chose not to look too closely. Which feels like a very human habit. You pause outside a narrow doorway. A red lantern hangs above it, swaying slightly, creaking in the breeze. The light paints your hands a soft, Unhealthy color. You tell yourself you're just going in to warm up. That's the joke you make with yourself, that you're cold. Not craving. It's almost funny. In a dry sort of way. Like telling yourself you're only checking social media for 1 minute and then realizing an hour has vanished. Inside, the world softens. The sounds blur at the edges. A low murmur of voices. The gentle clink of porcelain. The faint bubbling of pipes. You settle onto a narrow bed. Wood frame polished smooth by other bodies before yours. The lamplight is low. Kind. Forgiving. When the pipe is passed to you, your fingers don't hesitate. They remember this shape. They always do. The first inhale is warm and thick, sliding into your chest like a slow tide. Your shoulders drop. Your jaw unclenches. The ache in your hands fades into something distant, like a memory you can choose not to think about. Outside, the city keeps grinding forward. But in here, time stretches and loosens. You feel clever for finding this pocket of quiet. This loophole in reality. People in 1897 don't have streaming services or noise-canceling headphones. After all, this is what relaxation looks like. Your thoughts drift. Gold fields you'll never see. Money you almost had. A version of yourself that didn't need this room. The images come softly, not demanding anything from you. That's the real trick. Opium doesn't shout. It whispers. It suggests. It convinces you that nothing urgent exists. That tomorrow can handle itself. Somewhere in the back of your mind, a small voice notes how easily you came here tonight. No argument, no real decision, just a gentle slide from one street to another. You promise yourself this is temporary. Just for the winter. Just until work picks up. Just until you feel steady again. These promises feel solid now. Weighty and sincere. They always do at the beginning. Historians still debate how many people truly believed they could stop anytime, versus how many already sensed the trap and stepped in anyway. When you leave, hours later, the fog has thickened. The city feels farther away. Like it's moved while you weren't looking. Your legs are a little unsteady. But you laugh quietly at yourself. You've walked home worse than this after a night of drinking. You think. And besides, everyone has their vice. Seattle is built on them. Timber, gold, whiskey, dreams, and this. You don't notice, as you head back toward your room, how your steps naturally angle toward that narrow street. Already memorizing the path. You don't notice how the night air feels harsher without the warmth still blooming in your chest. Those are details for later. For now, there's only the lingering softness. The sense that the edges of the world have been gently sanded down. You lie awake in your rented room, listening to rain tap against the window. And for a moment, you feel almost peaceful. The city groans and sighs around you. Alive and indifferent. Somewhere below, a train horn moans. You close your eyes and think about how easy tonight was. And that, quietly, without ceremony, is how it begins. Morning arrives without enthusiasm. It seeps into your room the way dampness does. Slow and unavoidable. Turning the gray light at your window into something that feels heavier than darkness ever did. You sit up on the narrow bed, joints protesting softly, and for a brief, foggy second you don't remember where you are. Then the smell returns, stale smoke clinging to your clothes. Sweet and bitter at once, and memory clicks into place. Seattle, the docks. The room with the low lamps. You stretch your fingers and feel that familiar dull ache again. Already impatient, like it knows something you're still pretending not to. Outside, the city is awake and pretending very hard that everything is normal. Wagons rattle over muddy streets. Men shout greetings that sound more like challenges. Somewhere nearby, someone is already arguing about money. The Klondike Gold Rush has turned Seattle into a kind of waiting room for fortune. Posters promise riches beyond imagination. And every other man you pass seems convinced he's one good decision away from striking it rich. You tell yourself you're still part of that story, even if lately your role feels more like background scenery. You pull on your boots and head toward the docks. The boards slick underfoot. Work helps. You think. Work always helps. There's something comforting about routine. About lifting and stacking and carrying until your body is too tired to argue with your mind. The foreman barely looks at you as he assigns tasks. You're just another set of hands. And that anonymity feels oddly soothing. No one here asks questions. No one wants to know what you did last night. As the hours pass, you notice something new. The crates feel heavier than they should. Your patience wears thin faster. A man brushes past you and you snap at him before you can stop yourself. The reaction surprises you, sharp, disproportionate, and you laugh it off with an awkward joke. He doesn't laugh back. Seattle is full of men like that now. Wound tight with expectation and disappointment. It's hard to tell where your irritability ends and the city's begins. By midday, rumors drift through the dockworkers like smoke. Another ship has arrived. More men, more supplies, more money changing hands. Someone mentions a new opium shipment. Almost casually, the way you might mention fresh coffee arriving at a modern office. No one lowers their voice. Why would they? In 1897, opium isn't hiding in shadows yet. It sits in pharmacies, labeled and taxed, a legitimate commodity. That normalcy makes it easier to ignore the small tightening in your chest when you hear about it. You eat lunch quickly, barely tasting the food. Bread, something salty, something warm. It does the job, but it doesn't satisfy. Your thoughts drift, uninvited, back to the night before, the way the room felt softer, kinder, the way time slowed enough for you to catch your breath. You shake your head, almost physically, like you can dislodge the thought that way. It's too early to be thinking about night. That's a rule you don't remember agreeing to. But you follow it anyway. Afternoon stretches long and thin. The sky never quite brightens. Stuck in that permanent Seattle overcast that makes hours blur together. By the time the foreman dismisses you, your hands are sore and your mood has soured completely. You should go straight back to your room. You think. Rest. Save your money. Be sensible. Sensible is a word people use a lot right before doing the opposite. You walk past the main streets. Past the saloons already warming up for the evening crowd. Laughter spills out, loud and careless. Whiskey promises quick relief, but it comes with noise and attention. And right now you crave quiet. Your feet slow as you near that narrower street again. You don't stop. Not immediately. You stand there, staring at a knot in the wood of a nearby wall, as if it might offer advice. This is the moment you'll remember later, even if you don't realize it now. Not the first time you smoked, that felt like curiosity. This feels like negotiation. You tell yourself you're just going in to take the edge off. You worked hard today. You earned a little comfort. Modern people call this self-care. Which is funny, because it usually looks like self-destruction wearing a nicer outfit. You step forward. Inside, the room feels familiar already. That realization lands softly but carries weight. The lamplight hasn't changed. The murmurs are the same. A man you vaguely recognize nods at you. The kind of nod that says you belong here now. The pipe finds your hands again with alarming ease. Your body leans into the inhale like it's been waiting all day for permission. The relief comes faster this time. Deeper, too. It spreads through you with practiced efficiency. Smoothing over irritations you didn't even know you were holding onto. Your thoughts loosen their grip. The dock, the foreman, the city's endless hunger, it all drifts a few inches farther away. You sink back, eyes half closed, and think, briefly, that this is what balance must feel like. There's a strange fact people often forget about this era. Many users genuinely believed opium made them more functional, more focused, more human, and in the short term, it sometimes did. You feel that illusion settling in now. Convincing and warm. Some historians still argue whether society's slow response was ignorance or convenience. And sitting here, it's easy to see how convenient ignorance can be. When you leave, again, the night has thickened. Your purse feels lighter than it should. You notice that this time. You also notice how the cold bites harder than before. How your skin seems less prepared for the world outside that room. You pull your coat tighter and walk faster. As if speed might replace warmth. Back in your room, you lie down fully dressed. Staring at the ceiling, sleep comes unevenly. Images flicker behind your eyes, waves of fog, glowing lamps, hands passing pipes in practiced silence. You wake once, heart racing, then drift off again. The cycle feels oddly familiar. Like a pattern you've seen in someone else's life. As rain taps steadily against the window, a thought surfaces, quiet but persistent. You're already planning tomorrow around tonight. The idea doesn't scare you yet. It should, but for now, it just feels efficient. Seattle hums outside, busy and unconcerned, and you let the sound carry you, convinced you're still steering this ship. The city, patient as ever, doesn't correct you. You wake before your alarm, which is to say, before the noise of the city decides it's time for you to be useful again. Your eyes open slowly, as if they're unsure this effort is worth it. The room feels smaller this morning. The ceiling presses down a little closer. And the air is stale in a way that suggests it's been holding secrets overnight. Your mouth is dry. Your limbs feel heavy. Not sore exactly. Just reluctant. Like they're waiting for a better reason to move. When you sit up, a faint wave of unease rolls through you. It's subtle. Easy to ignore if you're not paying attention. A low hum under your thoughts. You tell yourself it's hunger. Or the weather. Seattle's dampness has a way of getting into bones and convincing people something is wrong when it's really just Tuesday. You swing your legs over the side of the bed and pause there longer than necessary. Staring at the warped floorboards like they might explain what's happening. Outside, the city is already alive. Wagons clatter. Someone coughs violently in the alley below. A train horn moans in the distance. Long and theatrical, like it enjoys being heard. You pull on your coat and head out, moving more slowly than usual. Each step feels slightly delayed, like your body is processing instructions with a bit of lag. If this were a modern device, You'd assume it just needs a restart. At work, the dock feels louder today. Every sound arrives sharper than it should. Crates slam. Men shout. The gulls overhead seem personally invested in annoying you. Your hands tremble when you lift. Just a little. Enough that you notice and then immediately look around to see if anyone else did. No one's watching. Everyone is too busy surviving their own version of the morning. You try to focus. You really do. But your thoughts keep drifting. Sliding back to that room with the low lamps and gentle murmurs. You catch yourself imagining the warmth spreading through your chest. The way your shoulders loosened without effort. The contrast is cruel. Out here, everything demands something from you. In there, nothing does. The realization lands with a quiet weight. By late morning, the unease has sharpened into irritation. Your skin feels wrong, too tight, like you're wearing clothes that don't quite fit anymore. You snap at a coworker again. Then immediately regret it. Apologies come out awkward, half-formed. He shrugs it off. But the exchange leaves you unsettled. This isn't how you usually are. You used to be steady. Dependable. At least, you think you were. Memory is already starting to edit itself. During your break, you sit on an overturned crate and stare at the water. Elliott Bay looks dull and metallic under the gray sky. Ships move slowly, purposefully, like they know exactly where they're going. You feel an unexpected flicker of jealousy. Your hands shake more noticeably now. You clench them into fists and shove them into your pockets, hoping pressure will fix what's wrong. It doesn't. Someone nearby mentions a doctor on First Avenue who sells a particularly smooth tincture. Says it helps with nerves. Says it's good for aches. Says it like he's offering a tip about a decent tailor. You pretend not to listen. But every word sinks in. Opium wears many disguises in this era. Medicine, tonic, relief. It's everywhere. Threaded through daily life so casually that avoiding it takes effort most people don't bother making. Historians still argue whether this normalization made addiction inevitable for some, or simply invisible for everyone else. By the time work ends, you feel wrung out, exhausted without having accomplished anything meaningful. The thought of returning to your room feels unbearable, too quiet, too empty. You tell yourself you'll just walk. Clear your head. Walking is healthy. Walking is sensible. Your feet, however, have developed their own opinions. You don't fight them very hard. The narrow street appears almost gently, as if it's been waiting. The red lantern sways in the breeze. Familiar now, almost friendly. You hesitate for a moment. Longer than before. This hesitation feels important, like a test you're not sure you want to pass. Your chest tightens. Your hands ache again, deeper this time. The discomfort feels personal, accusatory. Fine, you think, just once more, just to feel normal. Inside, the room welcomes you without comment. No judgment, no questions. The man behind the counter nods, already preparing what you didn't ask for out loud. That detail sends a small, sharp thrill through you. You're known here. You settle onto the bed. Movements practiced now, and accept the pipe when it's offered. The relief hits fast, faster than before. Almost greedy. The tension drains out of you in a rush that leaves you lightheaded. You exhale slowly, eyes closing, and think, with a strange mix of gratitude and unease, that you really needed this. That thought should worry you. It doesn't. It feels obvious, logical. like stating that rain makes things wet. As the warmth spreads, you notice something else. It doesn't last as long. The edge creeps back sooner. A faint restlessness at the borders of the calm. You adjust your position, chasing the comfort, and tell yourself you're imagining it. Some historians still debate how quickly tolerance develops. But sitting here, it feels like your body is already negotiating new terms. When you leave, the night air feels almost hostile. Sounds are louder, lights harsher. The walk back to your room feels longer than it should, as if the city has stretched itself just to inconvenience you. You climb the stairs slowly, each step a small argument with gravity. Lying in bed, you stare at the ceiling again. Sleep comes, but it's shallow, broken by sudden waking moments where your heart races for no clear reason. Between those moments, a single thought keeps surfacing, persistent and unwelcome. This is becoming necessary. You turn onto your side, pulling the blanket tighter, and tell yourself you'll deal with it later. Tomorrow, maybe. The city murmurs outside, endlessly busy, and you let that sound lull you into uneasy rest. Somewhere beneath the fog, Seattle keeps growing, and quietly, so do your reasons for going back. The evening arrives the way it always does now, without ceremony. Without asking whether you're ready for it. One moment the dock is loud and demanding. The next you're standing alone. The workday dismissed with a grunt and a wave. Your body feels hollowed out, as if the effort of moving crates has scooped something essential from the inside of you and forgotten to put it back. The relief you felt earlier has long since thinned, stretched into a brittle calm that cracks at the slightest touch. You walk with the rest of the men for a while, boots splashing through shallow puddles left behind by a lazy drizzle. Conversation drifts around you. Talk of ships coming in. Rumors of gold strikes farther north. Complaints about wages that never quite keep up with the cost of living. You nod when it seems appropriate, laugh a beat too late, and realize you're performing yourself rather than being yourself. It's an odd sensation, like watching your own reflection try to pass as human. As the group splits off toward saloons and boarding houses, you slow. The decision happens quietly. There's no dramatic pause, no internal speech about consequences. You simply angle left instead of right, letting habit masquerade as coincidence. The narrow street opens ahead of you, dim and familiar, and you feel a strange mix of comfort and embarrassment, like running into an old friend you're not sure you should still know. The red lantern is already lit. Of course it is. It always seems to be. Steady and patient, swaying just enough to remind you that time is still moving, even if you wish it wouldn't. You hesitate at the door, long enough to feel the city's chill creep through your coat and into your spine. Your hands ache again, deeper now, a kind of dull insistence rather than pain. You tell yourself this is practical. Efficient. You don't have time to feel miserable. Nobody in Seattle does. Inside, the warmth wraps around you instantly. The room smells the same, sweet, bitter, familiar, and that predictability feels like a gift. You notice more details now than you did before. The way the lamps are positioned to soften shadows. The quiet efficiency of the attendants. The practiced stillness of the other patrons, each lost in their own version of relief. This place has a rhythm, and you're learning it faster than you'd like to admit. You settle onto the narrow bed without being guided. That detail catches you off guard. You didn't ask where to go. You just knew. The pipe is prepared with the same calm assurance. And when it's placed in your hands, your fingers close around it like they've been waiting all day. The first inhale is smooth, almost disappointingly so. No drama, no rush, just that familiar warmth blooming in your chest, easing the tightness you've been carrying since morning. For a while, everything aligns. Your breathing slows, your thoughts stretch out, less jagged, less demanding. The dock, the fog, the endless talk of gold, it all recedes to a manageable distance. You think, not for the first time, that this must be what people mean when they talk about peace. It's quiet, it's gentle, it asks nothing of you. In a city that constantly demands effort, that feels revolutionary. A strange fact from this era drifts through your mind. Something you overheard once and never quite forgot. Some opium dens advertised themselves as places of rest. Not indulgence, as if exhaustion, not addiction, were the problem they were solving. Some historians still debate whether this framing was intentional manipulation or simply a reflection of how society understood fatigue at the time. Sitting here, it feels irrelevant. The effect is what matters. But tonight, something is different. The warmth doesn't hold you the way it used to. There's a faint restlessness underneath it, like a buzzing you can't quite shake. You shift on the bed, adjusting your position, trying to chase that earlier sense of complete ease. It flickers, returns briefly, then slips again. You frown, a small crease forming between your brows, and tell yourself you're overthinking it. Relaxation isn't something you can force. After all, when you eventually stand to leave, the movement feels heavier than it should. Your legs protest, stiff and uncertain, and you have to pause for a moment to steady yourself. No one comments. No one ever does. That's part of the appeal. Outside, the night air hits you harder than expected. Sharp and unkind after the softness inside. You pull your coat tighter and start the walk back to your room. Each step echoing a little too loudly in your head. The city feels different tonight. Not hostile exactly, just less forgiving. Lights seem harsher. Sounds carry farther. A passing wagon makes you flinch. Your nerves stretched thinner than you realized. You try to laugh at yourself. You've handled worse than this, but the sound comes out weak. Unconvincing. Back in your room, you sit on the edge of the bed and stare at the wall for a long time. You're not tired. Not really. Just drained. Sleep, when it finally comes, is shallow and cluttered with half-formed dreams that dissolve the moment you reach for them. You wake more than once. Heart racing, mind searching for something it can't name. Lying there in the dark, you notice how naturally your thoughts drift to tomorrow. Not work, not wages, not the weather, just that narrow street, that red lantern. The idea settles in without resistance. Like furniture being rearranged in a room you thought was already full. You close your eyes and tell yourself this is still under control. After all, the city hasn't punished you yet. Seattle, fog-bound and booming, continues to thrive around you, apparently unconcerned. And that quiet lack of consequence feels, in its own way, like permission. The city keeps its secrets poorly in the early hours. You learn this as you step outside before sunrise. The sky a dull slate color that hasn't decided whether it wants to be night or day. Seattle smells different now, less smoke, more damp wood and cold earth, and for a brief moment, it feels almost honest. Your breath fogs in front of you. A small cloud that appears and vanishes. Much like your confidence lately. You head toward work out of habit more than intention. Your body moves, but your mind lags behind. Still heavy with half-remembered dreams and a vague sense of unease. The ache in your hands has returned. Sharper this time, joined by a faint restlessness that makes it hard to stand still. You roll your shoulders, flex your fingers, and tell yourself this is just fatigue. Plenty of men in this city are tired. Exhaustion is practically a civic feature. On the docks, the morning routine unfolds with mechanical precision. Crates, ropes, shouting. The rhythm should be grounding. But today it grates. Every sound feels slightly off. Like it's arriving a fraction too late or too loud. You drop a crate, not dramatically. Just enough to draw a glance from the foreman. He says nothing, but the look lingers. It's the kind of look that weighs options. Replaceable is a dangerous word to sense hovering nearby. By mid-morning, the discomfort has sharpened into something harder to ignore. Your skin crawls, an itchy, internal sensation that no amount of shifting seems to relieve. Your stomach twists, appetite gone entirely. When you sit for a break, your leg bounces without permission, heel tapping against the wood like it's trying to send a message. You press it down with your hand, annoyed at your own lack of control. A man nearby lights a cigarette. The smoke curls lazily upward, and the smell hits you with unexpected force. Not because it's pleasant, it isn't, but because it reminds you of something else. Something warmer, softer. Your mouth waters slightly, an involuntary response that embarrasses you even though no one notices. You turn away, staring at the water, jaw clenched. This is the part no one warned you about. Or maybe they did, and you just didn't listen. The way your body begins to ask questions your mind doesn't want to answer. Opium was supposed to be quiet, gentle, not like whiskey, with its hangovers and public mistakes. But here you are, counting minutes, gauging sensations, already aware of how far away night feels. Historically, this period is when many users still believed they were simply run down. Doctors often agreed. Medical journals of the time spoke vaguely about nerves, exhaustion, modern life moving too fast. Some historians still debate whether early symptoms of dependence were misdiagnosed or deliberately minimized. Especially when opium sales were profitable. From where you're standing, the distinction feels academic. Work ends early today. Or maybe it just feels that way because you're watching the clock like it owes you money. When the foreman dismisses you, relief washes through you, followed immediately by something more complicated. You don't head straight back to your room. You already know that won't help. The quiet there has become oppressive, a space where your thoughts echo too loudly. Instead, you walk past the main streets, past the saloons, already humming with anticipation for the evening crowd. Laughter spills out, loud and careless, and for a moment you consider it. Whiskey would be easier to explain, more socially acceptable, but the idea of noise, of people, of being seen, makes your shoulders tense. You want the other kind of relief now. The quiet kind. The narrow street greets you like an old acquaintance. Not a friend, not yet, but someone who recognizes you without asking questions. The red lantern sways gently, its light catching on wet boards and turning them briefly copper. You stop a few paces away, heart thudding harder than it should. This time, there's no pretending you're just here to warm up. The truth sits heavy in your chest. You step inside anyway. The room enfolds you with practiced ease. The attendants don't rush, don't hurry you. They don't need to. Your body has already decided. When the pipe reaches your hands, the tremor you didn't realize you had eases almost immediately. That change is subtle but undeniable. You notice it. You don't comment on it. Neither does anyone else. The inhale brings relief. Yes, but also something else. A quiet, unsettling confirmation. The discomfort drains away so cleanly it feels like proof. See? Your body seems to say, this is what you were missing. The warmth spreads, slower than before, but deeper, settling into places that have been aching all day. Your breathing evens out. Your thoughts soften. The world recedes to a manageable distance again. For a moment, you feel foolish for worrying. This is still working, still helping. You sink back, eyes half closed, and let the calm wash over you. Some historians argue that this phase, when relief and dependence intertwine, is the most dangerous. Precisely because it feels like balance. Sitting here, it's easy to see why. When you leave, the street feels colder than it should. The relief fades quicker than you expect. Like warmth slipping through your fingers. You walk faster, chasing the feeling, annoyed when it doesn't follow you home. In your room, you sit on the bed and rub your hands together. As if friction alone might summon that softness back. Night settles in, heavy and damp. You lie down, staring into the dark, aware of your heartbeat in a way you never used to be. Sleep comes eventually, but it's thin, easily disturbed. You wake once, sweating, then drift off again. As rain begins tapping against the window, a quiet realization forms, unwelcome but persistent. The city didn't whisper about this part. Seattle talks loudly about opportunity and progress. About gold and growth. It says very little about the way habits harden into needs. You close your eyes and try not to think about how quickly your days are starting to orbit a single narrow street. You start to notice the rain more now. Not because it's new, Seattle has always been generous with it, but because it seems synchronized with your moods. As if the city has decided to narrate your inner life in drizzle and fog. The drops tap against windows and roofs with a persistence that feels personal. Like a reminder you didn't ask for but can't mute. Morning is harder again. Not dramatically harder. Just enough to matter. You sit on the edge of the bed longer than usual. Elbows on your knees, staring at the floor as if it's loading the day a bit slowly. Your hands ache before you even move them. Your stomach churns, undecided about whether it wants food or rebellion. You take a few deep breaths, counting them the way you've heard people do when they're trying not to panic, in through the nose, out through the mouth, and it almost works. Outside, the city looks washed out. The fog hangs low, blurring edges, softening outlines. Buildings feel less solid than they used to. Like scenery rather than shelter. You head toward the docks because that's what you do. Because routine still offers a thin thread of stability. Each step feels slightly heavier than the last. As if the ground is gently resisting you. Work doesn't distract you anymore. It just fills time. Your body goes through the motions while your mind drifts. Restless and impatient, you catch yourself watching the clock. Measuring the day not in tasks completed but in hours remaining. That realization lands with a dull thud. You don't like it, but you also don't correct it. Correction takes energy you don't seem to have. A strange irritability settles in by mid-morning. Small things feel enormous. A dropped rope, a loud laugh, someone standing too close. You feel exposed, raw, like your nerves have been moved closer to the surface. When a coworker makes a harmless joke, you force a smile that doesn't quite reach your eyes. He notices. You both pretend he doesn't. There's a common belief later generations will have, that people in the past were tougher, less sensitive. But standing here, sweating under a gray sky, you feel how thin that myth really is. Bodies have always been bodies. Nerves have always been nerves. Some historians still debate whether industrial cities like Seattle accelerated dependence by exhausting people faster than they could recover. You don't need the debate. You feel the exhaustion in your bones. By afternoon, the ache in your hands has become a constant companion, a low-grade insistence you can't shake. Your thoughts circle the same point over and over, like a gull hovering above the docks. Waiting, you try to focus on anything else, the water, the ships, the sound of boots on wood, but your attention slides back every time. It's almost impressive, in a dark sort of way, how efficient this has become. When work finally ends, you don't linger. There's no internal discussion anymore. No list of pros and cons. You head toward that narrow street with the ease of someone walking home. That realization brings a flicker of shame, quickly smothered by relief at the thought of what's waiting. The lantern is there, glowing patiently through the fog. You don't pause this time. You step inside without hesitation. Coat still damp, shoulders already loosening in anticipation. The room feels smaller than before. Or maybe you're just more aware of it. You recognize faces now. Not names. Never names. Just outlines of familiarity. Fellow regulars. That word settles uncomfortably in your chest. When the pipe reaches you, your hands stop shaking entirely. The contrast is immediate and undeniable. Relief floods through you, and with it comes a wave of gratitude so strong it almost feels emotional. You exhale slowly, eyes closing, and think, not for the first time, that this place understands you better than the rest of the city does. That thought feels dangerous. You let it pass without examining it too closely. The warmth spreads, but it's thinner now, stretched over a larger hunger. You chase it, adjusting, inhaling again, trying to recreate that first, perfect calm from days ago. It flickers into existence, then fades. You frown slightly, confused, and then laugh under your breath. Of course it doesn't feel the same. Nothing ever does. That's just how time works. Right? There's an odd detail you notice tonight. You're more aware of your body than your thoughts. The weight of your limbs. The slow rhythm of your breathing. The way your heart settles into a steady, almost hypnotic pace. This isn't euphoria. It's maintenance. Some historians still argue that the shift from pleasure to prevention marks the true beginning of addiction. Sitting here, the distinction feels uncomfortably accurate. When you leave, the fog has thickened into something almost solid. The streetlights glow like distant moons. Hazy and unreachable. The walk home feels longer again. Your legs heavier. Your mood flatter. Relief fades quicker than before, leaving behind a hollowed-out calm that doesn't satisfy so much as it pacifies. In your room, you sit on the bed and rub your temples, trying to hold onto the softness a little longer. It slips away anyway. Sleep comes late and leaves early, filled with strange, looping dreams where you're always almost somewhere, but never quite arriving. As dawn creeps in, pale and unwelcome, a quiet truth settles over you. The city no longer sets your rhythm. Something smaller, narrower, and far more patient has taken over. Seattle hums on outside, expanding and modernizing, while you lie still, already waiting for night. By now, the days have started to blur together in a way that makes calendars feel like a polite suggestion rather than a rule. You wake up unsure whether it's Tuesday or Thursday, only certain that your body feels wrong in a very specific, familiar way. Morning no longer feels like a beginning. It feels like something to get through. You sit up slowly, waiting for the room to stop tilting. Your hands ache before you move them. A deep, dull soreness that seems older than you are. Your mouth is dry, your tongue heavy. You swallow and feel a faint wave of nausea rise and then settle. Like it's testing how much attention it's going to demand today. You breathe through it, eyes closed, bargaining quietly with yourself. Just stand up, just get dressed, just make it outside. The walk to the docks feels longer every morning, even though the distance hasn't changed. The city looks the same: fog, wet boards, tired buildings, but your relationship to it has shifted. You're no longer part of its rhythm. You're moving through it slightly out of sync, like a song played at the wrong speed. People pass you, purposeful and loud, and you feel strangely detached from them, as if there's a thin pane of glass between you and the rest of the world. Work has become mechanical. Lift, carry, set down, repeat. You do what you're told, when you're told, but there's no extra effort left for pride or curiosity. The foreman watches you more closely now. You notice it in the way his eyes linger, in the way he gives instructions twice, slower, like he's not sure you heard the first time. You did hear him. It just takes a moment longer these days for things to register. Your hands tremble openly now. No matter how tightly you clench them, you try to hide it by keeping them busy. But stillness betrays you. When you pause to catch your breath, your leg starts bouncing again, heel tapping out a restless rhythm on the wood. You press it down with your boot. Annoyed, embarrassed, your body refuses to cooperate, like it's following instructions from someone else. By midday, you're exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't seem to touch. It's not the clean tiredness of honest labor. It's heavy, foggy, wrapped around your thoughts. Food doesn't appeal to you, but you force yourself to eat anyway, chewing without tasting, just to quiet the hollow twisting in your stomach. You wash it down with water that feels too cold, too sharp. Someone nearby mentions a man who collapsed on the docks last week. Overworked, they say. Nerves. Bad heart. The explanation shifts depending on who's talking. You listen without commenting, a strange chill creeping up your spine. Stories like that used to feel distant, cautionary tales for other people. Now they land uncomfortably close, like they're being told in the second person for a reason. There's a moment in the afternoon when you realize you're no longer counting hours until work ends. You're counting minutes. The difference feels important. You glance at the sky repeatedly, as if it might speed things along out of sympathy. It doesn't. The clouds remain stubbornly gray, indifferent to your internal negotiations. When dismissal finally comes, relief rushes through you so fast it's almost dizzying. You don't wait. You don't linger. You leave with a sense of urgency that borders on desperation. Boots splashing through puddles as you cut through side streets. You tell yourself you just need to feel normal again. That phrase has become a kind of mantra, vague enough to excuse almost anything. The narrow street appears ahead of you. And this time there's no hesitation at all. The red lantern glows steadily. A beacon you no longer question. You step inside like someone returning to shelter during a storm, heart already slowing in anticipation. The room receives you without ceremony. The attendant barely looks up. You're part of the furniture now. Another predictable shape moving through the space. When the pipe is placed in your hands, your fingers stop shaking instantly. The relief is so immediate it's almost frightening. Your shoulders sag. Your breathing evens out. You hadn't realized how tense you were until the tension disappears. You inhale, and the warmth spreads. Familiar and muted. There's no rush anymore. No surprise. Just a settling, like something clicking back into place. You close your eyes and let it happen, telling yourself this is necessary, that you can't function without this reset. The thought feels obvious, undeniable. You don't remember when it first appeared, only that it's been there for a while now. A strange calm settles over you, but it's thinner than before, stretched tight over a growing need. You notice yourself thinking ahead, calculating how long this feeling will last, when you might need to come back. That realization flickers through your mind, uncomfortable and sharp, before being gently smoothed away by the haze. When you leave, the street feels colder, harsher, like it's punishing you for stepping out of the warmth. The relief fades quickly now, retreating like a tide that no longer reaches as far up the shore. You walk faster, irritated, chasing a sensation that refuses to follow you home. In your room, you sit on the bed and stare at the wall, feeling oddly empty. Sleep comes in fragments, shallow and unsatisfying. You wake sweating, heart pounding, then drift off again, caught in a loop of half-dreams and restlessness. As dawn approaches, pale and unwelcome, a quiet understanding settles in. You're no longer using this place to escape the day. You're using the day to endure the time between visits. The city learns your habits before you do. You notice it in small, unsettling ways. The way certain faces seem to appear at the same corners each evening. The way shopkeepers stop watching you closely, already filing you into a category that doesn't require curiosity. Seattle is very good at sorting people. It has to be. Too many arrivals, too many disappointments, too many men who look like they're only passing through even when they've been here for years. Morning arrives thin and unsatisfying. You wake with a tightness in your chest that makes you pause. One hand resting there as if pressure might persuade your heart to behave. It passes after a moment, leaving behind a jittery aftertaste. Like bad coffee, your hands tremble openly now. You don't bother hiding it when you dress. There's no one here to see. And pretending for yourself feels pointless. The walk to work feels longer again, though you're not sure how that's possible. The streets look washed out, edges softened by fog and familiarity. You pass a pharmacy window displaying bottles of tonics and cures, their labels promising calm nerves, restful sleep, renewed vitality. You snort quietly at that. The irony isn't lost on you. In this era, opium hides in plain sight, dressed up as medicine and sold with a reassuring smile. Some historians still argue whether regulation lagged behind knowledge or whether comfort simply paid better than caution. On the docks, your performance deteriorates. There's no dramatic failure, no collapse, just a steady erosion. You move slower. You forget instructions. A crate slips from your grip, narrowly missing your foot. The foreman swears and steps in, his patience visibly thinning. He doesn't yell at you the way he might have once. Instead, he watches you with concern edged by calculation. Concern is expensive. Calculation is practical. By midday, your nerves feel like exposed wires. Every sound sets them humming. A gull's cry makes you flinch. A sudden laugh nearby sends a jolt through your chest. You try to steady yourself, breathing shallowly, eyes fixed on the boards beneath your boots. You feel fragile in a way that's hard to explain, like one sharp moment away from unraveling completely. You skip lunch without really deciding to. Food feels unnecessary, even offensive. When all you want is quiet inside your own skin, your thoughts drift, uninvited, back to that narrow street. The lantern, the warmth. You catch yourself counting how long until you can reasonably leave without drawing attention. That calculation runs quietly in the background of your mind, constant and distracting. When the foreman finally dismisses you, he pulls you aside. Just for a moment, he asks if you're feeling well. His voice is neutral, but his eyes aren't. You nod too quickly. Assure him you're fine, just tired. Everyone's tired, right? He accepts the answer with a grunt. But the exchange leaves you rattled. Being noticed feels dangerous now. You don't head straight for relief. Not immediately. You wander for a bit, circling familiar blocks like you're giving yourself the illusion of choice. The city hums around you, busy and unconcerned, its energy flowing past without including you. Finally, inevitably, your feet angle toward that narrow street. Inside, the room feels different tonight. Smaller, dimmer, or maybe you're just more aware of its limits. You recognize nearly everyone here now. The realization lands with a quiet thud. You're not a visitor anymore. You're irregular. The attendant doesn't ask what you want. He simply prepares it, movements smooth and efficient. When the pipe reaches your hands, the tremor stops. That contrast is impossible to ignore now. Relief floods through you, and with it comes a flicker of something like fear. Your body responds too well, too eagerly. You inhale anyway. Of course you do. The warmth spreads, steady and dull, smoothing the raw edges of the day. There's no joy in it tonight. Just function, maintenance. You sit there, eyes half closed, counting breaths, aware of how carefully you're rationing this calm. Some historians argue that cities like Seattle created ideal conditions for quiet dependency, anonymity, exhaustion, easy access. Sitting here, you don't feel like a case study. You feel like a tired person taking the only thing that still works. When you leave, the night air feels cruel. The relief drains away almost immediately, leaving behind a sharper emptiness than before. You walk faster, irritated, your mood sinking as the distance grows between you and that room. Back in your own space, you pace for a while, unable to settle. Your hands shake again, your heart flutters, then steadies. You lie down fully clothed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the city breathe. Sleep comes late and lightly, broken by sudden waking moments where your thoughts race without direction. As dawn approaches, gray and unforgiving. You realize the city has already adjusted its expectations of you. Quietly, without announcement, it has begun to move on. You begin to measure mornings by how much effort it takes to stand. Today, it takes more than usual. You sit on the edge of the bed, elbows braced on your knees, breathing slowly as if you're about to lift something heavy rather than simply exist. Your heart beats a little too fast, then a little too slow, like it's testing different tempos to see which one feels survivable. The room looks unfamiliar for a moment, not because it's changed, but because you have. The walls feel closer. The air feels thinner. You rub your face with both hands and notice how sharp your cheekbones feel beneath your palms. You don't remember losing weight, but your clothes have started to hang differently. It's subtle enough to ignore, which is exactly what you do. Outside, the city is already in motion. Wagons roll by, splashing through puddles that never quite dry. Men hurry past with purpose you can't seem to access anymore. Seattle feels louder lately, harsher, like someone turned up the volume without asking you first. Every sound presses against your nerves, demanding attention you don't have. At the docks, your body protests almost immediately. Your hands shake openly now, no matter how busy you keep them. The ache in your joints feels deeper, older, as if it's been waiting for permission to settle in. You drop a rope and swear under your breath, then catch yourself looking around, half expecting someone to take note. The foreman does. He always does. He doesn't say anything, not yet. That silence feels heavier than yelling would. You work faster, clumsier, trying to compensate, and only make things worse. By mid-morning, sweat runs down your back despite the cold. Your stomach twists itself into knots. Hunger and nausea tangled together in a way that makes eating feel like a gamble. You sit during your break and stare at your hands. They don't look like yours anymore. The skin seems duller, the veins more prominent. When you try to still the trembling, it only gets worse. You laugh quietly at yourself, a short, humorless sound, and think about how ridiculous this would look to someone from the future. Imagine explaining this to a modern doctor. You think they'd have pamphlets, support groups, a name for what's happening. Right now, all you have is discomfort and a growing sense of dread. Someone mentions a man who's been let go. Too slow, they say. Unreliable. The words drift through the air casually. Like weather. You pretend not to listen. But they stick. Replaceable. The city loves that word, even if it doesn't say it out loud. Seattle is expanding, modernizing, always hungry for fresh bodies and fresh hope. Worn-out parts get discarded. By afternoon, your thoughts are no longer just drifting toward that narrow street. They're anchored there. Everything else feels like filler content between now and then. You hate that realization, but not enough to change it. Changing things requires energy. You're conserving what little you have left. When dismissal finally comes, relief hits you hard enough to make you dizzy. You stand still for a moment, steadying yourself, then head out without looking back. The path through the city feels automatic now, like a groove worn deep by repetition. You don't even register the shops you pass. Your attention narrows, tunnel-like, focused on a single destination. The lantern glows through the fog. Steady and patient, you feel a flicker of something like gratitude when you see it. Inside, the room accepts you without comment. The attendant doesn't look surprised. Why would he? You're predictable now. That thought lands quietly, uncomfortable but true. When the pipe reaches your hands, the shaking stops completely. The relief is immediate, almost violent in its clarity. You exhale slowly, shoulders sagging, and feel something inside you unclench for the first time all day. The warmth spreads, but it's muted, thinner than it used to be. You inhale again, chasing a depth that doesn't quite arrive. There's a moment, brief but sharp, when you realize you're no longer here because you want to be. You're here because the alternative feels unbearable. The thought surfaces, then sinks back into the haze, smoothed over before it can do real damage. Some historians still debate when choice truly disappears in stories like this. Sitting here, it feels like it's slipping away quietly, without drama. When you leave, the night feels colder than ever. The relief drains almost instantly, leaving you raw and irritable. You walk faster, jaw clenched, annoyed at how quickly the calm abandoned you. In your room, you pace for a while, unable to settle, heart fluttering like it can't find a rhythm it likes. Sleep, when it comes, is thin and restless. You wake with your heart racing, then drift off again, trapped in shallow cycles that never quite restore you. As dawn approaches, gray and indifferent, a heavy understanding settles in. You're not using opium to soften the edges of your life anymore. You're using it to hold yourself together. The city starts to feel less like a place and more like an obstacle course designed specifically for you. Stairs are steeper, streets are longer, even standing still takes effort. As if gravity has quietly renegotiated its contract overnight. You wake with a dull pressure behind your eyes and a tightness in your chest that makes you pause. Hand hovering there, counting breaths until your heart settles into something resembling cooperation. Your room smells faintly of damp fabric and old wood. It's not unpleasant, just persistent. You notice details more now, the peeling paint, the uneven floorboards, the way the window never quite shuts all the way. You tell yourself you should care about these things. That you used to. The thought drifts away before it can land. Outside, Seattle is louder than ever. Or maybe you're just quieter. Wagons rumble past like distant thunder. Men shout greetings that feel aggressive rather than friendly. A newspaper boy calls out headlines you don't quite catch. Something about growth, about progress. The city is proud of itself. It should be. It's doing very well. You are not. On the docks, your body rebels early. Your hands shake so badly you have to pause before lifting anything heavy. Waiting for the tremor to subside enough to trust your grip. The foreman notices. He always notices. He doesn't comment, but he assigns you lighter work, phrasing it like a favor. The kindness stings more than criticism would have. It feels like a quiet demotion, a prelude. By mid-morning, your nerves are stretched thin. Every sound lands too hard. Every movement feels exaggerated, clumsy. You sweat despite the cold. Shirt clinging uncomfortably to your back. When someone bumps into you, you snap before you can stop yourself. Words sharp and unnecessary. Regret follows immediately, heavy and useless. You try to eat during your break. You really do. You stare at the food. Lift it to your mouth. Chew. Your stomach twists in protest. And you force yourself to swallow anyway. Determined not to give in to this particular weakness. It sits there like a stone. Uncomfortably present. You wash it down with water and feel a brief wave of dizziness pass through you. leaving behind a hollow calm. There's talk today about new ordinances. Whispered but persistent. City leaders are getting nervous. Someone says, too many dens, too many complaints. Seattle wants to look respectable, especially with the eyes of the nation drifting this way. Opium has been easy to ignore when it stayed quiet. Now people are starting to notice. Some historians still argue whether these early moral panics were about public health or public image. Standing here, you suspect it's mostly the latter. The afternoon drags. You watch the clock with open desperation now. Not even pretending otherwise. Each minute feels like a small endurance test. Your body hums with restlessness. An internal vibration that never quite stops. You clench and unclench your hands, trying to will them steady. They don't listen. When dismissal finally comes, it feels like a pardon. You leave quickly, not wanting to draw attention, not trusting yourself to answer questions. The city blurs as you move through it. Streets and faces smearing together into a single gray passageway. Your focus narrows, sharp and unforgiving. The lantern appears through the fog, and you feel your shoulders drop in relief so intense it almost hurts. Inside, the room greets you with its familiar hush. The attendant doesn't meet your eyes. He doesn't need to. You're part of the pattern now. As predictable as the lamps being lit at dusk. When the pipe reaches your hands, the shaking stops. The relief is immediate, surgical in its precision. Your breath leaves you in a long, slow exhale you didn't realize you'd been holding all day. The warmth spreads, dull and dependable, like a blanket that's been used too many times but still does its job. There's no pleasure in it tonight. Just function. You sit there, eyes half closed, aware of how carefully you're rationing this calm, measuring it, trying to make it last. Some historians suggest that this stage, where relief replaces desire, is when dependency becomes hardest to untangle. Sitting here, you don't need the suggestion. When you leave, the night air feels cruel. The relief evaporates almost immediately, leaving you raw and irritable. You walk faster, jaw clenched, already annoyed at how far away the room feels. Back in your own space, you pace, heart fluttering, hands shaking again. Sleep comes late and leaves early. When dawn creeps in, pale and unwelcome, you lie there staring at the ceiling with a heavy, unspoken thought settling in your chest. You're running out of ways to pretend this is temporary. You wake with the uneasy sense that your body has been awake for hours without you. Your heart is already racing when your eyes open, as if it's been rehearsing panic in the dark. The room feels wrong, not unfamiliar, just subtly hostile. The air is thick, stale, pressing against your chest in a way that makes each breath feel negotiated rather than automatic. You sit up slowly, waiting for the dizziness to pass. It doesn't, not entirely. Instead, it settles behind your eyes. A dull pressure that makes the edges of the room blur. Your hands are shaking before you even notice them. You hold them out in front of you, watching the tremor ripple through your fingers, and feel a flicker of disbelief. This is new, or maybe it isn't, and you've just run out of ways to ignore it. Getting dressed takes longer now. Buttons feel smaller. Your coordination feels slightly off, like your body and mind are no longer fully aligned. You fumble, swear under your breath, then pause, suddenly exhausted by the effort of frustration itself. Outside, the city is already alive. But you linger in your room, staring at the door as if it's about to make a decision for you. The walk to the docks feels heavier than ever. Each step sends a faint jolt up your legs. Your joints stiff and incooperative. The fog hangs low, swallowing buildings whole, and for a moment you feel strangely disoriented. Like the city might dissolve entirely if you stop paying attention. You keep moving, partly out of habit, partly because standing still feels worse. Work is a blur of near misses. You drop things. You forget simple instructions. Once, you find yourself staring at a stack of crates, unable to remember what you were supposed to do with them. The foreman notices. Of course he does. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. He pulls you aside and asks, gently, almost kindly, if you're all right. You nod, too quickly, too eagerly. You say you didn't sleep well. Say you're just worn out. He listens, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. Then he sighs and tells you to take the afternoon off. Says you look like you could use the rest. The words land with a hollow thud. It sounds like mercy. It feels like a warning. You leave the docks hours earlier than usual. The weight of that unearned freedom pressing down on you. This isn't relief. It's exposure. You walk aimlessly for a while. Not ready to go back to your room. Not quite ready to go where you know you'll end up. The city hums around you. Busy and indifferent. Its rhythm moving on without waiting for you to catch up. Your thoughts spiral. Money. Work. The foreman's look. How long before, take the afternoon off, turns into something more permanent. You rub your temples, trying to quiet the noise in your head. But it only grows louder. More insistent. Your chest tightens. Your breathing shortens. Panic circles closer, like it's testing the ground. You don't remember deciding to turn down that narrow street. One moment you're walking nowhere in particular. The next the red lantern is glowing ahead of you. Steady and familiar. The sight brings such immediate relief it almost makes you dizzy. Your shoulders sag. Your pace quickens. Inside, the room feels smaller than ever. But also safer. Contained. Predictable. The attendant looks at you for a moment longer than usual. His expression unreadable. Then prepares the pipe without a word. When it reaches your hands, the shaking eases. But it doesn't stop completely this time. That detail catches your attention. Sends a brief flicker of alarm through the haze. You inhale. The warmth spreads, but unevenly, like heat through a drafty room. Some of the tension loosens. Some of it clings stubbornly, refusing to be soothed. You inhale again, chasing the calm, and feel a faint edge of irritation when it doesn't arrive the way it used to. Your body has learned too well. It wants more than you can give it. Sitting there, eyes half closed, you feel a strange mix of gratitude and resentment. Gratitude that this still works at all. Resentment that it has to. Some historians still debate whether dependency is born of chemistry or circumstance. Right now, it feels like both, tangled too tightly to separate. When you leave, the night air hits you like a slap. The relief drains away almost immediately, leaving you exposed and irritable. You walk faster, heart fluttering, already aware of how thin your margin has become. Back in your room, you sit on the bed and stare at the floor. Hands shaking again, chest tight. Sleep comes in fragments, broken by sudden waking moments where your heart races and your thoughts scatter. As dawn approaches, pale and unwelcome, a heavy realization settles in. The city hasn't pushed you out yet, but it's starting to step back. The afternoon off doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like a rehearsal for something worse. You wake from a shallow doze with your heart pounding, unsure how much time has passed. The light at the window already fading toward evening. For a moment, you lie still, listening to the city breathe around you, wagons rolling, voices drifting, a distant whistle, and you feel oddly detached, like you're listening from underwater. Your body hurts in quiet, persistent ways, not sharp pain, just a collection of complaints that add up to exhaustion. Your hands tremble when you sit up. Your stomach twists, undecided about whether it wants food or rebellion. You consider staying in the room, writing this out, proving to yourself that you can. The idea lasts exactly as long as it takes for a wave of unease to roll through you. Cold and insistent. You try to distract yourself. You wash your face in cold water, wincing at how sensitive your skin feels. You straighten the bed, then undo it, irritated by the way the blanket won't sit right. You sit, stand, pace. Nothing settles. The room feels too small. The air too close. Your thoughts begin to circle, faster and tighter, always landing in the same place. Outside, dusk settles in. Lamps flicker to life along the street, their glow softened by fog. The sight should be comforting. Instead, it sharpens your restlessness. Evening used to mean rest. Maybe a drink, maybe conversation. Now it means waiting. Waiting for your body to stop arguing with you. Waiting for the only thing that still quiets the noise. You last longer than you expect. Long enough to feel a small, bitter pride. See? You tell yourself. You're still choosing. Then your heart flutters strangely, skipping a beat or two. And the pride dissolves into fear. You press a hand to your chest, breathing carefully, counting again. Panic whispers close, testing how far it can go. You don't announce your decision, even to yourself. You simply put on your coat and step outside. The walk feels urgent, your pace faster than usual. Boots striking the boards with sharp, impatient sounds. The city blurs past, streets and faces smearing together. Your focus narrows until there's only the path ahead and the faint, desperate hope of relief. When the red lantern finally appears through the fog, you feel a rush so intense it almost makes you lightheaded. Inside, the room is quieter than usual. Fewer people. The lamps seem dimmer. Or maybe your eyes are. The attendant looks up, studies you for a brief moment, then nods. There's something in that look, recognition, maybe concern, that makes you avert your gaze. When the pipe reaches your hands, they're shaking badly enough that you have to steady them against your knee. You inhale, and the relief comes, but not cleanly. The shaking eases, but your chest still feels tight. The warmth spreads, but it's patchy, unreliable. You inhale again, irritation flaring when it doesn't deepen the way you expect. A faint unease creeps in alongside the calm, an awareness that this is taking more effort than it should. You sit there longer than usual, chasing equilibrium. Around you, others lie still, faces slack, eyes closed. For a moment, you wonder how long they've been coming here. How many afternoons off? How many excuses? How many quiet negotiations it took to get them to this point? Some historians still debate whether dependency spreads faster in isolation or in company. Sitting here, you suspect it's both. When you finally leave, the relief drains away almost immediately. leaving behind a sharper edge than before. The street feels louder, brighter, harsher. A sudden shout nearby makes you flinch hard enough to draw a glance from a passerby. You look away quickly, embarrassed, and hurry on. Back in your room, you collapse onto the bed fully dressed. Your heart flutters again, then settles. Sleep comes, but it's thin and crowded with anxious half-dreams. You wake sweating, convinced for a moment that you've missed something important, then realize there's nothing to miss. As dawn creeps in, pale and indifferent, a sobering thought settles over you. Even when you give yourself permission to rest, your body doesn't know how anymore. The city is moving forward. You're learning how to stand still. You wake with the uncomfortable sense that something has shifted overnight, like furniture rearranged in the dark. Nothing looks different at first glance, but your body knows. Your heart beats too loudly in your ears. Your skin feels thin, overly sensitive, as if the air itself is abrasive. When you swing your legs out of bed, a wave of dizziness forces you to pause, one hand gripping the mattress until the room steadies. Outside, Seattle hums along, unaware of your internal recalibration. Fog drapes the streets in its usual indifference. Men hurry past your window. Already late for something, already needed somewhere. You watch them for a moment longer than necessary, feeling oddly separated from their urgency, like you're observing a different species. Getting ready takes effort you resent. Every movement feels deliberate, heavy. Your hands shake openly now. No matter how little attention you pay them, you stop trying to hide it. Hiding requires energy. You leave the room with your coat half-buttoned, not caring how it looks, only that it's on. The walk to the docks is a negotiation. Your legs feel unsteady, your balance just slightly off, enough to make each step feel risky. Sounds arrive distorted, too sharp, too close. A wagon rattling over boards makes you flinch. Someone laughs nearby and it feels intrusive, almost hostile. You keep your head down, focused on putting one foot in front of the other. At work, the foreman doesn't even pretend this time. He pulls you aside almost immediately. Voice low, practical, says you don't look well. Says accidents happen when men are distracted. Says maybe it's best if you take another day. The words are careful, measured, but the meaning lands hard. You nod, because arguing feels impossible, and because a part of you is relieved. You leave the docks before your hands even have a chance to fail you. The early dismissal feels heavier than yesterday's. This is no longer a kindness. It's a pattern. You walk away with your shoulders hunched, aware of eyes on your back, of conclusions being quietly drawn. The city stretches out before you, full of noise and motion you don't quite belong to anymore. You wander without direction, trying to delay the inevitable pull. Your thoughts loop endlessly: money, work, the foreman's look, the way your body betrayed you without asking permission. Your chest tightens, your breathing shortens, panic presses close, eager and familiar. You tell yourself you'll just sit somewhere. Breathe, let this pass. But sitting feels unbearable. Stillness makes everything louder. Your feet keep moving, carrying you along familiar routes until, without surprise or ceremony, the narrow street appears ahead of you. The lantern glows through the fog, steady and reassuring. You feel your shoulders drop, relief washing through you so powerfully it borders on gratitude. Inside, the room greets you with its usual hush. Fewer faces today, More space. The attendant watches you carefully, then prepares the pipe without comment. Your hands shake badly as you take it. Worse than before. You inhale, desperate now, and feel the relief arrive in uneven waves. The tremor eases, but doesn't vanish. Your heart slows, but not enough. You inhale again, irritation flaring when the calm doesn't deepen the way it used to. A flicker of fear slips in alongside the haze. You sit there longer, chasing balance, aware of how much effort this takes now. Around you, others lie still, unreachable. You wonder how long it took them to stop noticing the effort entirely. Some historians still debate whether addiction is marked by excess or by erosion. Sitting here, it feels like erosion, slow, quiet, relentless. When you finally leave, the relief drains away almost instantly, leaving you raw and shaky. The street feels louder than ever. The lights too bright. You hurry back to your room, heart fluttering, hands trembling again the moment the door shuts behind you. You sit on the bed and stare at the wall, exhausted beyond sleep. Your body hums with restless energy that has nowhere to go. When sleep finally comes, it's thin and fractured, breaking at the slightest disturbance. As dawn creeps in, pale and unwelcome, a heavy realization settles in. The city has started making plans that don't include you. And you can feel yourself shrinking to fit that absence. You wake up to silence. And for a moment that feels like mercy. No shouting in the street yet. No wagons rattling past your window. Just the faint hiss of rain and the soft, relentless ticking of your own pulse in your ears. Your eyes open slowly, cautiously, as if you're afraid of what the room might demand from you today. Your body feels wrong in a new way. Not just restless or weak, but heavy, as if gravity has decided you deserve extra attention. Your limbs respond sluggishly when you try to move, and a sharp wave of nausea rolls through you when you sit up too fast. You pause, breathing carefully, one hand braced against the wall until the world steadies. This is becoming routine, and that realization lands harder than the nausea itself. You don't go to the docks this morning. You tell yourself it's just for today. Just until you feel steadier. The excuse feels thin even as you think it. Work has started to feel like something that belongs to another version of you, someone stronger, more reliable, more present. You sit on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, trying to remember when exactly that shift happened. There's no clear moment, just a gradual slide. Hours pass in uncomfortable fragments. You try to rest, but rest won't come. Lying down makes your heart race. Sitting up makes you dizzy. You pace the room, then stop, then pace again, like an animal testing the limits of its enclosure. Your hands shake constantly now. A visible reminder of how little control you have left. You tuck them under your thighs, then pull them free again, frustrated by your own fidgeting. By midday, hunger gives way to something sharper. A hollow, gnawing sensation that feels less like needing food and more like needing relief. Your thoughts circle tightly, refusing to land anywhere else. You try to distract yourself, counting cracks in the wall, listening to the rain, watching shadows shift, but nothing sticks. Everything feels too loud or too dull, with no comfortable middle ground. Your chest tightens suddenly, breath catching halfway in, panic rises fast and familiar. A cold rush that makes your vision blur at the edges. You press a hand to your chest. Counting again, whispering numbers like they might anchor you. The panic eases after a minute, leaving you shaky and drained. That scared you more than you want to admit. You don't wait for evening this time. You pull on your coat with clumsy fingers and step outside. Rain immediately soaking into the fabric. The cold air hits you hard, sharp and bracing, but it doesn't help. Your pace is quick, almost frantic, boots splashing through puddles as you move through the streets. You barely notice where you're going until the red lantern appears ahead of you, glowing dimly through the rain. Inside, the room feels quieter than ever. The lamps seem lower, the shadows deeper. The attendant looks up, his expression flickering with something you can't quite name, concern, maybe, or recognition, before he looks away. When the pipe reaches your hands, they're shaking so badly you almost drop it. The relief comes, but it's incomplete. Your hands steady somewhat, your heart slows a fraction. But the calm doesn't bloom the way it once did. It sits thinly over your nerves. Fragile and fleeting. You inhale again, irritation flaring when the effect doesn't deepen. You're not seeking pleasure anymore. You're bargaining for baseline. You sit there longer than usual, eyes closed, focusing on breathing, on staying still. Around you, others remain motionless, distant. You wonder, briefly, if this is what stability looks like now, not peace. Just the absence of panic. Some historians still debate whether the most dangerous moment is the first use or the first time relief becomes necessary. Sitting here, you know exactly which one scares you more. When you leave, the rain has intensified, drumming against the boards and your coat. The relief drains away before you're halfway home, leaving you hollow and irritated. You walk faster, jaw clenched, already dreading the hours ahead. Back in your room, you collapse onto the bed, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling. Your body hums with restless energy, your thoughts racing without direction. Sleep comes eventually, thin and uneasy, filled with fragmented dreams that dissolve the moment you wake. As night deepens and the rain continues its steady rhythm, a sobering truth settles in. Your days are no longer structured by work or rest, but by managing discomfort. And each day, that discomfort is asking for more. The morning doesn't announce itself anymore. It just arrives, unwelcome and heavy, pressing down on you until you realize sleep has slipped away without ever really visiting. Your eyes open to the same ceiling, the same cracks you've memorized. But something feels distinctly worse today. Not louder, not sharper, just emptier. Like whatever buffer once existed between you and discomfort has finally worn through. You try to sit up and have to stop halfway. Breath catching in your chest. Your heart stutters, then speeds up, as if it's unsure which direction to go. You wait it out, counting slowly, one hand gripping the edge of the bed. This takes longer than it should. When the rhythm finally settles, it leaves you drained, like you've already run a race you didn't sign up for. Your hands shake constantly now. Not the occasional tremor, not the subtle vibration you could pretend wasn't there. This is obvious, insistent, impossible to ignore. You watch your fingers twitch against the blanket and feel a strange detachment. As if they belong to someone else. Someone less reliable. Someone you wouldn't trust with anything fragile. Getting dressed feels optional today. You manage it anyway, though you're not sure why. Habit, maybe, or pride, clinging to relevance. Your coat feels heavier than it should, damp from yesterday's rain, smelling faintly of the street. You don't head toward the docks. You don't even pretend you might. That part of your life has gone quiet without making a scene. Like a conversation that simply stops being returned. The room becomes unbearable by mid-morning. The walls feel too close. The air too thick. You pace until your legs ache. Then sit. Then stand again. Nothing settles. Hunger comes and goes without resolution. Your stomach twists. Then empties itself of the idea of food entirely. You sip water and feel it slosh uncomfortably. Doing nothing to help. Your thoughts spiral, looping over the same narrow track. Money, rent, how long you can disappear before someone notices. How long before not noticing becomes the point. The questions don't demand answers anymore. They just circle, persistent and exhausting. A wave of panic hits you without warning. Your chest tightens, breath turning shallow and quick. Your vision narrows, edges darkening. You clutch at the bedpost, knuckles white, counting again, whispering numbers like they're instructions for survival. It passes, eventually, leaving you weak and shaken. That one was worse. You know it. Your body knows it. You don't wait. The decision isn't framed as a choice. It's more like gravity reasserting itself. You grab your coat and step outside, ignoring the way the cold air bites into your lungs. Your pace is fast, uneven, boots striking the boards too hard. The city blurs past, streets and faces dissolving into motion and noise you don't register. The lantern appears through the fog, and the relief is immediate and shamefully intense. Your shoulders sag, your breath slows. Inside, the room feels smaller, darker, but still familiar, still contained. The attendant looks at you. Really looks this time, then prepares the pipe without comment. Your hands shake violently as you take it. You fumble, nearly drop it, and a sharp flash of embarrassment cuts through the haze. You inhale too fast, cough slightly, then try again. The relief comes in fragments. The shaking eases but doesn't stop. Your heart slows but keeps fluttering at the edges. The calm feels thin, unreliable, like ice you're afraid to put weight on. You sit there longer than ever, chasing equilibrium that won't quite arrive. You're no longer surprised by this, just tired. Around you, the room remains still, quiet, suspended. You wonder how long you can keep negotiating like this. How many times your body will accept these terms before demanding something harsher. Some historians argue that the most terrifying phase isn't excess, but dependence stripped of illusion, when the substance stops giving and only prevents. Sitting here, you feel that truth settle in, heavy and unavoidable. When you leave, the relief drains away almost instantly. The street feels louder, brighter, crueler. You hurry back to your room, heart racing again, hands already shaking. The door closes behind you with a dull finality. You sit on the bed, exhausted beyond rest, staring at nothing. Sleep comes late and leaves early, fractured and shallow. As darkness settles and the city hums on without you, a grim understanding takes shape. This isn't a habit anymore. It's a fragile truce. The truce doesn't last the night. You wake to your own breathing, fast, shallow, unfamiliar, as if someone else is borrowing your lungs without permission. Sweat clings to your skin despite the cold. The blanket twisted around your legs like it's trying to restrain you. Your heart pounds erratically, skipping and rushing in a way that makes you very still, very careful, afraid that movement might push it too far in the wrong direction. For a long moment, you lie there and listen, not to the city, to yourself. The faint ringing in your ears, the tremor in your hands. Even at rest, the deep, restless ache under your skin, like your body is trying to crawl out of itself. This is new, or maybe it's just louder than before. You sit up slowly and the room tilts, swinging like it's hung on a loose hinge. Nausea surges hard enough to make you gag. You brace yourself, breathing through it, eyes squeezed shut until the world steadies again. When you open them, everything looks slightly wrong, too sharp at the edges, too bright, like the contrast has been turned up on reality. You don't bother checking the time. Morning, night, the distinction has lost meaning. Your body runs on a different clock now. One that doesn't care about schedules or light. It cares about relief, or rather, the absence of agony. You try to stand and have to grab the wall to keep from collapsing. Your legs feel hollow, unreliable, like they might fold out of spite. Each step across the room sends a jolt through you. Your joints stiff and incooperative. Your hands shake violently, knocking against your sides. You stare at them with something close to disbelief. This isn't subtle anymore. This isn't ignorable. A wave of panic crests. Sharp and immediate. Your chest tightens. Your breathing turns shallow, desperate. For a terrifying second, you're convinced this is it. That your heart has finally had enough of being yanked back and forth. You sink onto the bed, clutching the mattress, whispering numbers again, clinging to them like a rope. It passes. Eventually. It always does. And when it does, it leaves you hollowed out, exhausted, and painfully aware of how thin the line is now. You don't argue with yourself today. There's no performance of choice. No illusion of control. The idea of enduring this any longer feels impossible. You grab your coat with shaking hands and stumble outside. The cold air slicing into your lungs like punishment. It doesn't wake you up. It doesn't help. It just reminds you that your body has stopped adapting. The city looks unreal as you move through it. Fog blurring edges. Sounds arriving a beat too late. People pass you, glancing once, then away. You look unwell. That's not an accusation anymore. It's an observation. Seattle is full of men who don't last. You're starting to look like one of them. When the lantern finally appears through the fog, the relief is overwhelming and terrifying. Your knees nearly give out. This place has become a lifeline. And that realization lands with a cold, sobering weight. Inside, the room feels dim, quiet, suspended. Fewer people than usual. Or maybe you just don't notice them anymore. The attendant looks at you carefully this time. There's hesitation in his movement. A pause that makes your chest tighten. Then he prepares the pipe. Slower than usual. When it reaches your hands, the shaking is so violent you almost drop it. You fumble, curse under your breath, and finally manage to inhale. The relief comes, but weakly. Incomplete. Your hands steady a little. Your heart slows a fraction. But the panic doesn't fully retreat. It hovers at the edges. Waiting. You inhale again. Then again. Chasing a calm that refuses to settle the way it once did. The warmth spreads unevenly, like heat from a failing stove. You sit there longer than ever. Eyes closed, breathing carefully, bargaining silently with your own body. Just settle, just enough. Please. Some historians still debate when the body stops responding out of tolerance and starts failing out of damage. Sitting here, you don't feel like a theory. You feel like a warning. When you leave, the relief collapses almost immediately. The street feels hostile, the noise unbearable. You stagger home, heart fluttering, hands already shaking again before the door even closes behind you. Back in your room, you slump onto the bed, too tired to lie down properly. Your body hums with restless misery. Sleep doesn't come. When it finally does, it's brief and violent, broken by sudden jolts of fear. As the city turns through another indifferent night, a grim certainty settles over you. The truce is over. And whatever comes next won't be negotiated. Morning arrives like a dare. Light leaks through the window in thin, colorless strips, touching the wall without warming it, illuminating dust that drifts lazily as if nothing urgent is happening. Your body disagrees. You wake already tense, muscles locked, jaw clenched so tightly your teeth ache. For a moment, you don't move at all. You listen. Your heart is beating too fast. Then slowing abruptly. Then speeding up again, like it's forgotten the rules. When you finally try to sit up, a sharp bolt of nausea hits you so hard you have to freeze mid-motion. Your stomach twists violently, empty and furious. You swallow, gag, breathe through your nose, and wait. The room swims. Your skin prickles as if ants are crawling just beneath it. This sensation is new, or at least, newly impossible to ignore. You manage to sit on the edge of the bed, elbows on your knees, head hanging, sweat beads along your spine despite the cold. Your hands shake uncontrollably now, knocking softly against your thighs. You stare at them with a strange mix of fear and fascination. They look like hands, but they don't feel like yours. They feel borrowed, temporary. The city outside has already begun its day. You hear boots on boards, voices calling out prices, a wagon rattling past, life continuing, efficiently, without waiting to see if you'll be joining it. You realize, with a dull jolt, that you haven't been to the docks in days. Not officially fired, not officially dismissed, just absent. A quiet kind of disappearance that Seattle excels at. You try to stand and nearly collapse. Your legs buckle, weak and incooperative, forcing you to grab the bedpost to keep upright. The effort leaves you breathless. Heart racing dangerously fast. Panic surges again, sharp and immediate, flooding your chest with cold fear. This time it feels closer to the edge. You slide back down, whispering numbers, bargaining with a body that no longer trusts you. Minutes pass, or maybe hours. Time has become slippery, unreliable. Eventually, the panic eases enough for you to breathe normally again. What remains is worse, a deep, grinding misery that settles into your bones. Every nerve feels raw. Every thought hurts. You consider not going out today. The thought barely forms before your body rejects it outright. A wave of nausea rolls through you, followed by a violent shiver that rattles your teeth. Your chest tightens again, breath turning shallow and quick. The message is unmistakable. This is no longer about want. This is about survival, or what your body believes survival requires. You drag yourself to your feet, movements clumsy and desperate. Getting dressed is an ordeal. Your fingers won't cooperate. Buttons slip. Fabric feels wrong against your skin. Too rough, Too heavy. You abandon neatness entirely, pulling on your coat half-fastened, shoes barely tied. Outside, the cold air hits you like an accusation. It steals your breath, sharp and merciless, but it does nothing to clear your head. The city looks distorted, fog thick and oppressive, buildings looming like they're leaning in to watch. You move through the streets with tunnel vision, focused solely on staying upright. People glance at you, then quickly look away. You've crossed some invisible line now, from tired to unwell to something no one wants to engage with. Seattle has always been practical that way. Compassion is expensive. Distance is free. Each step toward that narrow street feels heavier than the last, but also more urgent. Your heart pounds erratically. Your hands shake so badly you have to keep them clenched inside your coat. By the time the red lantern comes into view, glowing dimly through the fog, your knees are trembling. Relief hits you before you even reach the door. It's so strong it's almost painful. You realize, dimly, how terrifying that is. Inside, the room feels quieter than ever, as if it's holding its breath. The attendant looks at you for a long moment, his expression no longer neutral. There's hesitation there now, calculation. He prepares the pipe slowly, deliberately. When it's finally placed in your hands, your fingers are shaking so violently you nearly drop it. You inhale. Nothing happens. For a heartbeat, pure panic floods you. Then, slowly, unevenly, a thin layer of relief spreads through you. Your hands steady a little. Your breathing eases, just enough to matter. But the misery doesn't lift. It only dulls, like pain numbed rather than healed. You inhale again, harder, chasing something that refuses to return. The warmth never fully arrives. You sit there, eyes closed, shoulders hunched, bargaining silently with your own body. Just enough, you think, just let me feel normal. But normal is gone, whatever this is now. It's something else, something brittle. Some historians still debate whether the final stage of addiction is marked by excess or by failure. The moment when the substance stops working but cannot be stopped. Sitting here, you understand the argument in your bones. When you leave, the relief collapses almost immediately. The street feels unbearably loud. Light hurts your eyes. Your heart races again, wild and unpredictable. You stagger home, clinging to walls, desperate to make it back to your room. Inside, you collapse onto the bed, fully dressed, shaking uncontrollably. Your body hums with agony, every nerve screaming at once. Sleep doesn't come. It can't. When darkness settles and the city moves on without you, a cold, unmistakable truth takes shape. You are no longer chasing relief. You are running from collapse. The collapse doesn't announce itself with drama. It creeps in quietly, like fog filling a room while you're too busy watching the floor. You wake, if you ever really slept, to a body that feels foreign, heavy, and untrustworthy. Your limbs ache with a deep, sour pain that seems to come from inside the bones themselves. Your skin feels too tight, stretched over nerves that buzz and prickle without mercy. Your heart is the loudest thing in the room. Not fast exactly, just irregular, unpredictable. You lie still, afraid that moving might provoke it into something worse. Each breath feels shallow, negotiated. You listen, counting again, because counting is one of the few tools you have left. Numbers feel safer than thoughts. When you try to sit up, the world tilts violently. A rush of nausea forces you to clamp your mouth shut, swallowing hard, eyes squeezed closed until the spinning slows. Sweat breaks out across your back, cold and clammy. You feel weak in a way that has nothing to do with tiredness. This is structural, fundamental. The room smells wrong today. Stale, damp, faintly sour. You wonder if it always smelled like this or if your senses are simply rebelling now that the haze has thinned. Light through the window feels too bright, slicing instead of warming. You turn your face away from it, blinking rapidly, eyes watering. You don't go outside for a while. Not out of resolve, out of incapacity. Standing feels like a risk. Your legs tremble even when you're sitting. Your hands shake so violently you can hear them tapping softly against your thighs. You press them between your knees, then under your body, then finally just let them shake. Fighting it takes too much energy. Time stretches and distorts. Minutes feel like hours. Hours slip by unnoticed. Hunger comes and goes in confusing waves, replaced by cramps that double you over without warning. Your thoughts fragment, drifting in and out without connecting. You try to focus on something simple, the sound of rain, the shape of the window, but even those feel slippery. Panic hits you mid-morning, sharp and sudden. Your chest tightens, breath hitching painfully. Your heart stumbles, then races. You're convinced, absolutely convinced, that this is the moment it finally stops correcting itself. You clutch the edge of the bed, vision tunneling, whispering numbers again like a prayer you don't fully believe in anymore. It passes, barely. What's left behind is worse, a hollow dread. Cold and persistent. You feel stripped of defenses, exposed to every sensation without filter. The idea of going outside terrifies you. The idea of staying here terrifies you more. You are trapped between two unbearable options, and your body is making the decision for you. You stagger to your feet, movements jerky and uncertain. Getting dressed is a farce. Your fingers won't cooperate. You give up on buttons, on straightening anything. You just need to get out. The room feels like it's closing in, walls inching closer with every breath. Outside, the world is too loud, too bright, too real. Sounds crash into you without warning, voices, wheels, footsteps, each one sending a jolt through your already frayed nerves. You keep your head down, focusing on the ground just ahead of your boots, on staying upright. People look at you now. Not openly, just quick glances followed by immediate disinterest. You've crossed another line, from unwell to alarming. Seattle has always been efficient at deciding who belongs where. You feel yourself being quietly sorted. Each step toward that narrow street is an effort of will you didn't know you still possessed. Your heart pounds erratically. Your vision blurs at the edges. By the time the red lantern comes into view, you're shaking so badly you have to stop and lean against the wall. Breathing hard, waiting for your legs to remember how to function. Inside, the room feels distant, muffled, like you're underwater. The attendant's face swims into view. He hesitates. That hesitation sends a sharp spike of fear through you. You realize, suddenly, how fragile this arrangement is. How easily it could vanish. When the pipe is finally placed in your hands, your fingers barely manage to close around it. You inhale desperately. The relief is minimal, insultingly so. Your hands steady just enough to notice how badly they're still shaking. Your heart slows a fraction, then resumes its erratic rhythm. The misery dulls but doesn't lift. You inhale again and again, chasing something that refuses to arrive. For the first time, you feel something close to anger, not at yourself, not at the city, but at the substance itself. It isn't holding up its end of the bargain anymore. And yet, without it, you know you'd be far worse. You sit there far longer than usual, slumped, eyes closed, breathing shallowly. Around you, others lie motionless, unreachable. You wonder how many of them are also discovering, right now, that the thing they depended on is starting to fail them. Some historians still argue whether collapse comes from the body giving out or the illusion breaking first. Sitting here, it feels like both, arriving hand in hand. When you leave, the relief evaporates almost immediately. The street feels hostile, the light painful. You stumble home, gripping walls, barely making it back to your room. You collapse onto the bed, shaking uncontrollably. Your heart flutters wildly. Your thoughts scatter. Sleep is impossible. All you can do is lie there, breathing, waiting, listening to the city move on without you. For the first time, a terrifying thought takes hold and refuses to leave. You don't know how much longer your body can do this. The night leaves you in pieces. You don't wake so much as resurface, dragged back into awareness by a sharp, electric jolt that snaps through your chest and down your arms. Your breath catches painfully, then comes back in shallow bursts. For a few terrifying seconds, you're convinced your heart has finally decided to stop negotiating. You lie perfectly still, afraid that any movement will finish what it started. The sensation eases, slowly, reluctantly. Your heart settles into an uneven rhythm that feels temporary, borrowed. Sweat soaks your shirt, cold against your skin. Your hands shake violently, knocking against your ribs with each breath. You stare at the ceiling, eyes wide, counting again, clinging to numbers like they're the only solid thing left in the room. When you finally try to sit up, your body resists. Every joint aches. Your muscles feel weak, hollow, as if something essential has been drained out and not replaced. A deep, gnawing pain twists through your stomach, sharp enough to make you gasp. You curl forward instinctively, arms wrapped around yourself, riding it out. Morning light creeps in, pale and indifferent. It doesn't bring relief. It just reveals how bad things have gotten. Your clothes hang loosely now. Your skin looks dull, almost gray in the weak light. You catch sight of yourself in the small mirror by the door and barely recognize the person staring back. Your eyes look too large, too alert, like they're waiting for danger. You don't go to work. That decision doesn't even form properly anymore. Work belongs to a version of you that still functioned. This version is busy just staying upright. You sit on the edge of the bed for a long time, breathing carefully, hands shaking in your lap, wondering how many days you've been gone without anyone coming to check. Hunger flares suddenly, violently, then vanishes just as fast, replaced by nausea so strong it forces you to gag. Nothing comes up. There's nothing left to offer. Your body seems to be arguing with itself, unsure which systems are worth running anymore. Fear settles in heavy and constant now. Not panic. That comes and goes, but a deep, cold certainty that something is wrong in a way you can't talk yourself out of. You press a hand to your chest, feeling the erratic thud beneath your ribs. And think about all the men you've heard stories about. The ones who took ill. The ones who simply stopped showing up. The explanations were always vague. Overwork, bad nerves, weak hearts. Historians still debate how many of those deaths were quietly linked to opium, hidden under softer language to spare reputations and avoid questions. By late morning, the room becomes unbearable, not because it's loud or small, but because it's silent enough for you to hear everything happening inside your own body. Every flutter, every ache, every misfired nerve. You can't stand it. You pull on your coat with trembling hands and force yourself outside. The city feels hostile now. Sounds hit you like blows. Light stabs at your eyes. You move slowly, unsteadily, leaning on walls, stopping often to catch your breath. People give you space without being asked. They sense it. That something about you is wrong in a way they don't want to touch. Each step toward that narrow street feels heavier than the last. Your heart pounds erratically. Your vision blurs. By the time the red lantern appears, glowing faintly through the fog, you're barely holding yourself together. Relief flickers and is immediately followed by fear. What if it doesn't work at all this time? Inside, the room feels distant, unreal. The attendant looks at you and hesitates. That hesitation stretches. Unbearable. You realize how precarious your lifeline has become, dependent not just on the drug, but on access, on permission, on someone else's judgment. When the pipe finally reaches your hands, you inhale desperately. The effect is almost non-existent. Your hands steady slightly. Your breathing eases a fraction. But the pain, the fear, the internal chaos remain. You inhale again, harder, then again, chasing something that refuses to return. Panic surges, sharp and overwhelming. You feel tears sting your eyes. Surprising and humiliating. You sit there, slumped, heart pounding, fully aware that this isn't enough anymore. The thing that once softened the world now barely holds it together. Some historians argue that this stage, when the drug fails but cannot be abandoned, is the most dangerous of all. Sitting here, you feel the truth of that argument in your bones. When you leave, the relief evaporates instantly. The street feels unbearably bright. You stagger home, gripping walls, barely making it back to your room. You collapse onto the bed, shaking uncontrollably, chest tight, breath shallow. Your thoughts scatter, dark and relentless. Sleep is impossible. All you can do is lie there and listen to your heart misfire. Over and over. As the city carries on outside, indifferent and efficient, a terrible understanding settles over you. You are no longer spiraling. You are failing. Failure doesn't feel dramatic. It feels quiet and humiliating. You wake to a body that has clearly stopped negotiating. Your heart stutters erratically, each beat an unpleasant surprise. Your hands shake so badly you can't keep them still even when you press them flat against the mattress. Your mouth tastes sour and metallic. And when you swallow, your throat burns. The room tilts lazily, as if gravity has grown bored with consistency. You lie there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, afraid to move, afraid not to. The city outside is already awake, boots on boards. A wagon rattling past, a man laughing somewhere nearby, and the normalcy of it all feels insulting. Seattle continues effortlessly. You are struggling to remain horizontal without panicking. When you finally sit up, the motion triggers a violent wave of nausea that doubles you over. Your stomach cramps sharply, empty and furious, forcing a dry retch that leaves you gasping. Your heart races wildly, then slows, then races again, as if it's forgotten how this is supposed to work. You clutch the edge of the bed, whispering numbers again, because numbers still make sense when nothing else does. You don't bother dressing properly. You barely manage your coat. Your fingers refuse to cooperate. Clumsy and unreliable. And you give up on dignity entirely. You just need to move. Staying here feels like waiting for something to go catastrophically wrong. Outside, the air feels too sharp, slicing into your lungs with each breath. The street seems longer, the buildings taller, the fog heavier. You move carefully, unsteadily, one hand brushing walls for balance. People notice now, not openly, not kindly, just enough to step aside, to look away quickly. You've crossed into a category no one wants to examine closely. Halfway down the block, your legs buckle without warning. You catch yourself against a post, chest heaving, vision narrowing to a gray tunnel. For a terrifying second, you're sure you're about to lose consciousness right there in the street. Panic floods you, cold and absolute. You cling to the post until it passes, heart hammering like it's trying to escape your ribs. This is bad, worse than before. There's no point pretending otherwise. You don't walk so much as stagger the rest of the way. Each step feels like a small argument with your own body. And your body is winning. When the red lantern finally comes into view, it no longer feels comforting. It feels necessary in a way that makes your stomach drop. Inside, the room is almost empty. The lamps glow low, casting long shadows. The attendant looks at you and frowns, actually frowns, his eyes lingering on your shaking hands. Your gray face. There's a pause, a dangerous one. You feel a surge of fear so intense it makes you dizzy. If he turns you away now, you're not sure what happens next. He says nothing. He prepares the pipe. Your hands shake violently as you take it. You inhale too fast, coughing weakly. Then try again. The effect is minimal, barely there. Your heart slows just enough to notice how badly it's still misbehaving. The shaking eases slightly, but the nausea, the weakness, the crushing dread remain firmly in place. You inhale again, desperation rising. Nothing improves. The realization hits you hard and cold. This isn't working anymore. Not really. The thing you've been clinging to, the thing you believed was holding you together, has lost its grip. You sit there, hunched, eyes closed, feeling something dangerously close to despair seep in. Some historians still argue whether deaths like this came from overdose, withdrawal, or sheer systemic failure. Bodies worn down by substances no one fully understood. Sitting here, you feel like a demonstration of all three arguments at once. When you leave, the relief evaporates instantly. The street feels hostile, bright, loud. You barely make it back to your room before your legs give out entirely. You collapse onto the bed, chest tight, heart fluttering wildly, hands shaking so hard they blur your vision. You lie there for hours, or minutes, time has lost meaning, listening to your heart stumble, waiting for it to either stabilize or stop. Sleep never comes. Your thoughts spiral, dark and relentless. By nightfall, one terrible truth has settled in with unmistakable clarity. Whatever safety net you thought existed is gone. And now, you are completely alone with what's happening inside your body. The night stretches on without mercy. A long, uneven ribbon of awareness and fear. You don't sleep. You don't really rest. You drift in and out of shallow half-consciousness. Jolted awake each time your heart stumbles or your breath catches in your throat. Every sensation feels amplified, stripped of any softness. There is no buffer left between you and your body. Your chest aches constantly now. A dull pressure that flares into sharp panic whenever your heart skips. You lie very still, afraid that movement will provoke something irreversible. Sweat soaks into the mattress beneath you. Cold and clammy, your hands tremble against your sides, tapping softly, relentlessly, like they're trying to signal for help. At some point, morning light creeps in again. Pale, unimpressed, you feel a flash of disbelief that time is still moving forward without consulting you. The city outside wakes up and goes about its business. Boots on boards, wagons rattling, voices calling out prices and plans. You listen to it all with a strange detachment, as if it belongs to another life entirely. Your body, meanwhile, is unraveling in small, humiliating ways. Your muscles cramp without warning. Your stomach twists, empty and furious, forcing dry heaves that leave you gasping. Your mouth tastes of metal and bitterness. When you try to sit up, a wave of dizziness knocks you flat again, vision tunneling until all you can see is gray. Fear settles into a constant presence now. Not the sharp spikes of panic you've grown familiar with, but a deep, steady terror that hums beneath everything. You know, with a clarity that feels almost calm, that something is seriously wrong. This isn't a bad night. This isn't a rough patch. This is your body failing to maintain its own systems. You think about going outside, about finding help. The thought feels distant, theoretical. You don't know who you'd ask. A doctor? With what money? The hospital? You've heard stories, crowded wards, judgmental looks, men like you turned away or left waiting. In 1897, help is not guaranteed, and shame is often the price of asking. You try to stand again, driven by a surge of determination that feels almost angry. You make it halfway upright before your legs give out. You collapse back onto the bed, breath coming in ragged bursts, heart racing wildly, panic surges, fierce and overwhelming. This one feels different, closer to the edge. You clutch the blanket, knuckles white, whispering numbers like a lifeline. 1, 2, 3. The seconds drag. Your heart eventually slows, settling into an uneven rhythm that feels temporary. Fragile. You lie there afterward, exhausted, staring at the ceiling, aware that each episode leaves you weaker than the last. Hours pass, or maybe they don't. Time has become unreliable, bending around your fear. The room feels unbearably small, the air stale and oppressive. You notice details you never cared about before. The crack in the ceiling shaped like a crooked river. The faint stain on the wall you don't remember making. These things feel like witnesses, quietly recording your decline. At some point, a thought surfaces that you can't push away. You might not survive this. Not in the dramatic way people imagine. Not with a final speech or a clear ending. Just quietly, in a rented room, while the city continues outside without interruption. The idea is terrifying and strangely unsurprising. Some historians still debate how many deaths like this went unrecorded or were gently rebranded as sudden illness or heart failure. Men who simply vanished from ledgers and payrolls. Their stories collapsing into a single vague line. Lying here, you understand how easily that happens. As evening approaches again, the light fading, your strength ebbs further. Your hands barely have the energy to shake now. Your heart still misfires, but the panic has dulled into something heavier, resignation. You are too tired to be properly afraid. You lie there, breathing shallowly, listening to the city's distant hum, and realize with chilling clarity that there will be no rescue tonight. If something changes, it will have to come from you. And you are running out of things to give. You wake into a stillness so complete it takes a moment to recognize it as dangerous. The city outside is quieter than usual, or maybe your hearing has dulled, and the absence of sound presses in on you. No wagon rattles past, no voices drift through the window. Just the faint, irregular thud of your own heart, echoing in your ears like something far away. You lie there, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, and realize you don't feel panicked anymore. That realization scares you more than the panic ever did. Your body feels distant, oddly light, as if sensation has been wrapped in thick cloth. The sharp misery of the last days has softened into something numb and hollow. Your hands barely tremble now. Not because they're steady, but because they're tired. Every movement feels optional. Every breath feels deliberate. You test yourself by trying to sit up. The effort feels enormous, like lifting a weight you can't quite see. You manage it, but only barely. Head swimming, vision dimming at the edges. You pause there, hunched, breathing shallowly, waiting for your heart to protest. It does, a few uneven beats. A brief flutter, then settles again. Sluggish and unreliable. Hunger doesn't come anymore. Neither does nausea. The absence of both feels wrong. Your mouth is dry, tongue heavy, but the idea of water feels distant. Unnecessary. You lick your lips out of habit and taste nothing. The world has started to mute itself. You think, dimly, that this must be what people mean when they say someone looks peaceful near the end. The word doesn't feel accurate. This isn't peace. It's depletion, a system running on fumes, conserving energy by shutting things down. The room looks different now. Stripped of significance, the cracks in the ceiling you memorized no longer hold your attention. The stain on the wall feels abstract, like part of a photograph rather than something in front of you. You feel less anchored to the space, as if you're only loosely attached to your own body. Time passes in uneven waves. You drift in and out of shallow awareness. Not quite asleep, not fully awake. In these moments, memories surface without invitation. The docks at dawn. The smell of wet wood. The first night in that dim room when warmth felt like a gift instead of a requirement. The memories don't hurt. They barely register. They just appear, then fade. Your heart stutters again, a longer pause this time. Enough to make you notice. You wait, curious rather than afraid, to see if it will resume its uneven rhythm. It does. Slowly, dutifully. You exhale, surprised to realize you were holding your breath. Some historians still debate whether men in your position understood what was happening at the end, or whether the body simply quieted the mind to make the process easier. Lying here, you suspect the latter. Fear takes energy. You don't have much left to spend. Light shifts at the window, turning from gray to gold and back again. Another day passes without you participating in it. The city continues, efficient and unconcerned, already reallocating whatever small space you once occupied. You think about standing again, about opening the door. The ideas surface, then dissolve before they can turn into intention. Your limbs feel too heavy, your thoughts too slow. There is no urgency left to push against. As evening settles, a deep weariness spreads through you. Heavier than sleep, deeper than rest. Your breathing grows shallow, untroubled. Your heart continues its uneven work, each beat feeling slightly more distant than the last. You lie there, eyes half open, watching the room darken, and understand with a quiet, detached clarity. This is what it feels like when the fight runs out, and nothing is rushing in to replace it. The darkness doesn't fall all at once. It gathers, patiently, fooling in corners and softening the edges of the room until everything looks slightly unreal. Like a memory already in progress. You notice this without reacting to it. Noticing has become passive now. Something that happens to you rather than something you do. Your breathing is shallow and quiet, each inhale feeling thinner than the last. Your chest rises and falls with a careful economy, as if your body has finally learned that extravagance is no longer an option. Your heart still beats, but it does so reluctantly, pausing between rhythms long enough for you to wonder, briefly, without alarm, whether it's finished. Then it starts again. That used to frighten you. Now it just registers as information. Your limbs feel heavy and far away, like they've been wrapped in layers of damp cloth. You try, out of mild curiosity, to wiggle your fingers. The signal takes a long time to arrive. And when it does, the movement is barely perceptible. You decide that's enough effort for one moment. The thought of doing more feels unnecessary. The city outside continues its low, distant murmur. You can hear it faintly through the walls, footsteps. A voice calling out, the far-off rattle of wheels. It sounds muted, like it's happening in another room, or another life. Seattle is still busy becoming whatever it plans to become next. It doesn't pause to check on you. It never has. A strange calm settles over you. Not the false calm you chased for so long, but something quieter and heavier. It doesn't promise comfort. It simply removes urgency. The constant internal commentary, the bargaining, the counting, the fear, has gone silent. What remains is a wide, empty space where effort used to live. Memories surface again, but they arrive gently now, without sharp edges. The first time you stood on the docks, breath fogging in the cold air, the smell of rain on wood, the way the city once felt full of possibility instead of pressure. These images drift through your mind like fog through streets, touching nothing, leaving no mark. You think, distantly, about how little of this will be noticed. A room that needs cleaning. A name that stops appearing on a list. Maybe a brief mention somewhere, folded into a ledger or a report. Some historians still debate how many lives like yours disappeared this way. Their endings softened into vague explanations that spared everyone the discomfort of details. Your breathing grows slower, shallower. Each breath feels optional, chosen rather than automatic. Your heart stutters again, then resumes with an effort you can almost feel. You wait to see if it will do it again. Waiting feels easy now. The room darkens further. The shapes around you blur together, bed, wall, window, losing their individual importance. You feel less attached to the idea of being here. In this specific body, in this specific moment, the sensation isn't frightening. It's oddly neutral. You close your eyes, not because you're tired, but because keeping them open no longer seems necessary. The city's distant hum fades even further. Like a radio being turned down in another room. Your breathing becomes soft, nearly imperceptible. If there's regret, it doesn't arrive loudly. It passes through like everything else. Faint and unfinished. If there's relief, it's subtle, not joy. Just the absence of strain. Your body has stopped fighting itself. The struggle has ended, not with victory or defeat, but with exhaustion. You drift, untethered, suspended between moments. And for the first time in a very long while, nothing is asking you to hold on. You don't notice the exact moment when effort fully disappears. There is no line crossed. No final decision made. One moment you are aware of your breathing, shallow, careful, barely there, and the next. Even that awareness loosens its grip. Your chest still rises, still falls, but it feels automatic now. Distant, like watching waves from far inland. The room has gone very quiet. Or perhaps it's you who has gone quiet within it. Sound reaches you slowly, dulled and softened, as if wrapped in thick cloth. The city's hum fades to a low vibration, then to nothing at all. Seattle continues its steady expansion somewhere beyond these walls. But it no longer reaches you here. Your heart hesitates again. A pause, longer than the others. You wait, not tensely, not hopefully, just waiting. The way one waits for a sound to finish echoing. When it resumes, it does so weakly, irregularly, each beat more effortful than the last. There is no panic now. No counting, no bargaining. Those belong to an earlier version of you. Your body feels light in a way that has nothing to do with relief. Sensation drains from the edges inward, fingertips, toes, the weight of your limbs, until what remains is only a vague sense of being. Floating somewhere behind your eyes. Even that begins to thin. Thoughts slow, stretch, dissolve. You think, briefly, of how this story would sound if someone else told it. A man in 1897. A city on the rise. A substance sold as comfort. Then necessity. Then nothing at all. Some historians still debate whether endings like this should be blamed on moral failure, medical ignorance, or the simple collision of human bodies with forces they weren't built to withstand. From here, the debate feels very far away. Breathing becomes softer, shallower. Each inhale takes longer to arrive. Each exhale lingers, as if unsure whether it needs to return. Your heart gives another uneven flutter, then settles into a rhythm so slow it's almost still. The room darkens completely now. Not because the light has changed, but because your eyes no longer bother to interpret it. There is no urgency left. No discomfort sharp enough to demand attention. Just a deep, spreading stillness. And then even that begins to fade. Your mind drifts, gently, the way it does just before sleep finally takes hold. Images blur and soften. The docks at dawn, fog rolling in, rain tapping steadily on wood. None of it feels heavy anymore. None of it asks anything of you. Your breathing slows once more, and then again. The space between breaths stretches, calm and untroubled. Your body rests at last, not in comfort, not in pain, but in quiet. No more effort. No more waiting. No more nights to endure. Just stillness, spreading softly, like fog over water. End of script. Sweet dreams.